July 9th board, order, and I'd like everybody to rise, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. I'm going to take a roll call.
Robert DePalma.
Here.
Pamela Mazik.
Yes.
David
He's
Axe.
excused.
James Christopher.
Yes.
Dale Casey.
Here.
Okay.
Okay. Everybody got a copy of the July agenda, and if so, are there any questions or comments to the agenda?
Let's see. Yes, I want to add one thing.
Okay.
We'll add it under G for approval to close the office on election day.
Oh. Are there any other questions or comments or changes to it? If not, a motion in order to approve it with those changes.
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments from the board? From the audience? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, it's approved. Everybody should have the agenda from previous meetings, which was June the 11th, and the fire board meeting of June the 11th. Are there any questions or comments? And I saw, Pam, you got the correction for that one typo.
Yep, I fixed the typo. Stay good.
There are no questions or comments. Somebody needs to make a motion to approve.
I will make a motion. I will make a motion to approve the July 11 minutes, the fire board minutes.
Second to that?
Second.
By Jim. Okay, any questions or comments from the board? From the audience? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay. Next is the financials. I guess Pam will kind of punch it with Dave's issue,
Well,
but
we've
you
got-
want to do the budget amendments first?
Do you really want? Okay, I do have 4 budget amendments. And the first budget amendment is a transfer into Fund 101, our general fund, from our fund balance, 1.5 million, and it's per our 2018-2019 fiscal year budget.
Okay.
And the second part, the second motion, or the second budget amendment I would like to make is to, and this kind of goes with this, is to amend to transfer 1 million from the general fund 101 to 401, our infrastructure fund, for designated projects, which is road improvements and development of the township property as approved with our fiscal year 2018-2019 budget.
Any other?
I do have another budget amendment. I would like to transfer 9,000, this is in the fire department, $9,712.50, and transfer it from the capital outlay 206, Department 901, 970, and transfer it into 206, 450, 887, road improvements. This is for the payment, to cover the shortfall for the payment of $122,942.50, which is being paid to the Oakland County Road Commission for the repaving of Tripp Road. And the third budget amendment, or the fourth budget amendment rather, is going to also be in 206. It's in Department 289, 81, let me think here, under General 289, 910, General Insurance. This is the line item where you pay, or the fire department pays for their fire department insurance, their accident fund insurance, workers' comp insurance, and their liability insurance. And it has a shortfall right now of $3,175.89. So my motion is to transfer 5,000 from 206, 901, 970, their capital outlay line, to cover the shortfall in their general insurance line. That's it.
Okay, is there a second to your motion? Second. Any other questions or comments from the board? Any from the audience? Can you identify yourself, please?
Angela Adderholt. Why is money being taken from the department to cover a county road?
The county, well, the way the roads are funded is the money goes to the county first and then it gets divvied up for the various projects and the townships have to vie for them. So if you want to get a road paved, you have to contribute some of the money to the project or they won't pave any of it.
Okay.
And so that Trip Road project is one we've been trying to get done for about 5 years because I think everybody kind of agrees it's the worst piece of road in the township. It's about a $3 million project. The money we're approving now is really the approval, the tri-party part of it that we approved last year. It's not the final bill. We won't know that until after we get the thing, but that the road commission asked us to approve that part of it to get the project started.
Okay.
And I believe the bid was, I think, left about a week ago Thursday. So shortly, I'll probably get a notice of a pre-construction meeting, and then we'll have some dates on when they're actually going to be doing it. But it'll be done this summer.
Our share of the total project is going to be somewhere around $250,000 to $275,000.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Carol?
Yeah, did you say that was coming out of the fire department?
No, it comes out of the general fund. From that money that gets put in the infrastructure fund, it ultimately ends up coming out of there. No, fire department. Any other questions or comments? George, you look like you want to ask me something, okay? Okay, if there are no other questions or comments, does somebody want a second? Oh, we did so.
Dale.
Okay, we take roll call.
Yes. Robert DePalma.
Yes.
Pamela Mazik.
Yes.
Access excused. Jim Christopher.
Yes.
Dale Casey.
Next item is the accounts payable.
To date, on accounts payable on township general fund side, $60,668.55. On the fire side, $66,329.07. That's my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Any from the audience? These are the monthly bills. Okay, if not, Patty, roll call.
Pamela Mazik.
Yes.
David Axe excused. Jim Christopher. Dale Casey.
Yes.
And Robert DePalma.
Yes. Okay, because Dave has an unexpected delay and can't make it tonight, I think we'll just table the financial investment reports till next one.
Oh, wait, we need a motion for financial reports. I'll make a
Oh.
motion to approve the financial reports as submitted with the budget amendments.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board? From the audience? We're not paying anything, so all in favor say aye.
I missed support.
Dale.
Dale. Okay, I'm sorry.
You
Thank
got
you.
limited choices tonight.
I know, I'm like,
I know I'm looking between the two to say who's going
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, okay. The investment reports, we'll wait until Dave is back. Okay, moving on. There's nothing under public hearings, nothing under presentations, nothing under unfinished business. Moves us right to new business. First item to discuss is the GIS contract with Oakland County. This was like the contract from hell because it's like 10 million parts and it took forever to get it done. Actually in 2016, but it didn't get done until last year. And they've made some changes to it. These are county contracts, you can't change them. It's really for some IT service agreements so that we and the vendors that support us, like the engineering firm, Orchard Hills, and our planner, Ben Tellerico, can have access to these same state functions. So I need to sign this contract in a couple of different places. You can't change anything on it. And so I just need approval to go ahead and sign the contract. If you can't, the only things that come out of this is the ability of our vendors to use it, and then the fire department gets that clemency report that you use. And if we don't sign it, we can't get that report either. So I need I would like a motion from someone to authorize me to sign the new revised contract they sent for the GIS information.
I'll make a motion to approve the GIS contract with Oakland County and to approve Supervisor DePalma to sign the contract and send it. Is that how we can do that?
Yeah, is there a second? Okay, any other questions or comments from the board? Any from the audience? Andy, would you take a roll call?
Dave X is excused. Jim Christopher.
Yes.
Dale Casey.
Yes.
Robert DePalma.
Yes.
And Pam Lonese.
Yes.
Next item is to discuss the reprogramming of community development block grant. Pam, if you're-
Right. We participate in Groveland County, the HUD program for community development block grant funds. And every year, so much of that money is designated to projects within our communities or either to public service contracts. And in 16 and 17, we designated for repairs at the Ortonville Edna Burton Senior Center. In 16, it was $11,216, and in 17, it was $17,172. This money was being used to remodel and update their kitchen, for new windows, retro, fit their bathrooms. But when the contract was written and they started remodeling the kitchen, because of HUD guidelines, there was a couple things that were left out of that contract, and so we have to just bring that up to date. One of them was a water heater. And so because it is HUD public funds, I have to have another public hearing. I have to then add the changes to that contract to include a water heater. So when I wrote it, I wrote it for a water heater, upgrade the electrical system, complete kitchen, retrofitting and install energy efficient windows and insulated commercial grade interior and exterior doors. This way it'll give them enough money to complete everything that they need to. It's not adding any money, it's not taking any money from anything, it's only including in that description what needs to be done so they can finish the work at the senior center. That's my motion to include in the 2016 and 17 senior center contract agreement with Oakland County to be able to complete the remodeling.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Any from the audience? Patty, there's money.
Yes.
Okay, roll call.
Jim Christopher.
Yes.
Dale Casey.
Yes.
Robert DePalma.
Yes.
Pamela Mazik.
Yes.
And Dave is excused.
Next item, again, this one is yours, Pam, I think. You wanted to discuss the site plan and fee amendments that we looked at
Yes,
earlier.
site plan fee amendments. We've been looking through and looking at how we do costs for land divisions, and land combinations. And last month we cleaned that whole area up as far as our fee structure. So this month now we've moved forward to clean up our fee structure for site plan reviews. And we found that, sometimes as you go through things kind of get cobbled up a little bit. Sometimes you maybe add something or you forget to do something. So it's time to go through site plan review. I took our ordinance book and I went to section 54 in the zoning section. And then I went to the fee section. And I went through page by page to match the fee schedule that we can approve to do site plans to match it to the ordinance. Because when somebody comes to do a site plan, there are 4 steps. There's a pre-app meeting, your preliminary, your engineering construction plan review, and your final site plan. And so I went through, I sat with the girls, we followed everything through, we cleaned all the wording up, and we cleaned up the cost structure. So that is what I have before the board. It can be approved tonight because it is part of the non-zoning section of our ordinance book, since we can change the fees accordingly. I can publish it in the paper, and that's going to clean up that whole fee section.
Good job, you did.
I don't know if anybody has any questions on it, anybody in the audience, nobody planning to do a site plan out there? You come in and look at your fees? Okay, my motion.
That's your motion?
My motion is to approve fees, section 18, update site plan process, section to reference section 54, 953 to 54, 955.
comments from the board? Any from the audience? Patty, you want to take a roll call? Yes.
Dale Kaysen,
Yes.
Robert DePalma.
Yes.
Pamela Mazik,
Yes.
Dave is excused, Jim Christopher.
Yes. This next item was originally going to be Dave, so I'll try and cover it for him, but while I was gone, apparently we got notified that the Microsoft version of Office that we're using is no longer supported, needs to be upgraded, and we've got several computers that are beyond the normal time frame for having them replaced and having the upgrade done on them. So Dave got a quote here for the 7 computers that are involved in it. It's pretty much everybody's in the office, I think, except mine. That's all right. Well, mine's mostly for internet access and stuff. So, the cost for it is $7,017.85. I know Dave's intent was to ask us to approve that from our vendor, IT Right, to do the replacement on those computers and our software upgrade system. So, I guess that would be my motion on behalf of Dave. Is there any other questions or comments from the board? Any from the audience? Okay, Patty, would you take a roll call?
Robert DePalma,
Yes?
Pamela Mazik,
Yes.
David Axe excused, Jim Christopher,
Yes.
and Dale Kaysen.
Do you know what, Kenny? I have to back up on that CDBG thing, because since it is public hearing, we're supposed to open the public hearing, close the public hearing before we do the motion. So I have an official. So can we?
Feel free.
Can we reopen the
Okay,
public
we'll
hearing?
reopen the public
at
hearing on the community development block grant.
7:18? I'm sorry about that, at 7:18. And I think everybody
Is there any other questions
heard
on it?
everything on it. And
You want to close it at 7:19?
what's this, 7:19, and you have my motion, and is there any discussion or any questions from the audience?
All right, next item on it was also for Dave Axe, and that was to discuss the MMPA Fall Conference. And Pam, maybe you know, I was gone when we got this, but I think this is for,
This is for Shelley to
Shelley,
go on her, part of her training as deputy treasurer, and it was $305 for this conference, and $104 a night for 3 nights.
total was
Plus-
$617, I think.
Plus any, yes,
Yeah.
travel expenses. So I'd like to make a motion to approve to send Shelley to the Michigan Treasurers Conference at $617 plus miscellaneous. Yes.
Usually when you get to
To the conference.
Okay, so that was your motion. Is there a second to that? Second. Okay, any other questions or comments from the board? Any from the audience? Okay, Patty, would you take a roll call?
Pamela Mazik,
Yes.
Dave is excused, Jim Christopher,
Yes.
Dale Kaysen,
Yes.
Robert DePalma.
Yes. Okay, next item on the agenda is discuss the fire department. I think everybody knows the surveys went out, they came back, about 45% of them came back. There was a edge of about 43 more for pursuing the fire department going forward than looking at the NOC application. So does somebody want to make a motion in regards to what we do next with the fire department?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
We have to help you with the language, but I would like to continue with Groveland Township Fire Department. And allow Chief Mason to make improvements as possible.
Okay.
Or something similar, so I'm going to need some help with the language.
I think that's close enough to what the intent was. Second by Dave. Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board? Are there any questions or comments from the audience? Okay, Patty, would you take a roll call on it?
Dave Axe is excused, Jim Christopher,
Yes.
Dale Kaysen,
Yes.
Robert DePalma,
Yes.
and Pamela Mazik.
Yes.
Okay, Kevin? Next item is the addition that we made to the agenda, which was G, approval to close the township office. Do you want to just cover why we're doing that because of the election day?
Right, I'd like
Every
to-
lady in the office will be working on the election.
I think it's easier on election day. We're so busy in here just to close the office on election days. I'd like to make the motion for this, for the August primary and the November closing office.
Generally speaking, the office is open, but the only two people that will be not actively working on the election is Dave and I. So if you want a dumpster permit, I can help you. If you want to get a dog license, Dave can help you, or pay the taxes. That's about it. Okay, we made the motion. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, second by Dale. Any other questions or comments from the board, from the audience? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, done. We have no resolutions for today. Moving to miscellaneous. Anyone have anything they want to report for the Holly area? You?
No, Shelley.
Shelley's off today.
Yeah, she's off today, but she's our liaison between us and the Holly Area Youth Assistance Program.
Annie, do you have anything you want to do for Brandon Groveland?
Brandon Groveland, we're going to do a fundraiser at the Brandon Park on Hadley with the cars. They were looking to park cars and register them this Saturday. And they're moving ahead with some suicide prevention programs they're looking into. And that was pretty much about it, what they were up to.
Okay. Next is Planning Commission. Bill, is there anything you want to report?
Nothing to report other than I'm going to miss this month's meeting. I'll be out of town.
Okay. BZA?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Only thing I guess I need to let everybody know about is, I think we mentioned this at one of the earlier meetings, just kind of want to bring the rest of the board up to date on this. I had some discussion with Dave today, because while I was gone, a letter came back from Dragon Corporation, which is it's a top-notch environmental company. And it's the one we used when we certified that the property that Bedrock ended up buying, I think about 7 or 8 years ago, was clear and clean and not contaminated. And we use them because they're generally considered one of the premier companies in their quality of work is good. In 1996, when the fire department was doing, I think it was the bunk room additions and that wall on the end of the fire station.
4 hours there.
Yeah, I know. Right after I became supervisor, they hit some buried fuel oil tanks in the ground there. For those of you who don't know, that fire station 1 on Dixie used to be a Kaiser Fraser car dealership, and the last Kaiser Fraser built was in 1956. So I think the building goes back, I think probably into the 40s actually. When they were doing the work, they uncovered 4 large steel tanks, which appear to have been either gasoline or heating oil fuel tanks for the original buildings system. They weren't used, they weren't full of stuff, but there was some release, I think, of, it might have been condensation water when they pulled them out. Marilyn was chief at the time, and I think Marilyn did all the right things we thought we were supposed to do, and that was she hired one environmental company to come out and do some test analysis of the dirt. We hired Oscar Larson, who does a lot of tank cleanups, to pull the tanks out of the ground. They actually cut the manufacturer's tank off of one of them, because you can still read it, and it's in the file. And then we had a whole bunch of dirt that was around the tanks, pulled out and set on a plastic tarp. I think it was on the parking lot next to the fire station, if I remember correctly. And the recommendation was to leave it air out for a while, because it really wasn't contaminated with like cleaning fluids and things. It was gas or diesel fuel. And the best way to kind of clean that up is basically let it air out, and then you can have it hauled off to a certified landfill. We had it hauled off to the Montrose landfill. And then we had the environmentalists write up a report and said, the laws that applied in 1996, we didn't know the tanks were there. Oakland County, who sold us the building, didn't know the tanks were there. And at that time, the rule was, if you didn't know the tanks were there when you bought it, you're not really responsible for it. And all of the sample test holes that they dug around where the tanks came out tested below safe levels for oil contamination or fuel oil contamination in the ground. And Maryland handed the report to the DEQ lady, MDEQ lady, and said, here's our report. She says, the lady said, okay, you're all done. And we never heard a thing about it after that. Until February, when the DEQ said, hey, you guys have an open case in our records that says you never closed this case out. So we dug all the records out of the basement and said, oh, we got all this report, I got all the samples from the lab work, I even got the manufacturer's tag on the tank so you could figure out who put it in originally. We have everything here, and here's the lady at the DEQ that the report's addressed to. I told my fire chief at the time, you're good to go. He said, well, we don't show it as closed, so what prompted this is, you probably heard something on Channel 7 a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, about some homes that are built in a subdivision, I think it's in Farmington or Novi, that is near where a dry cleaning plant used to be, and the dry cleaning chemicals had leached into the ground, and now they were going through the ground into some of the houses there, and a bunch of these expensive homes now had indications that the fumes from that kind of chemical were leaching through, and so they wanted somebody to clean it up, and of course the homeowners were in a big disagreement as to who and how. And this has made the DEQ kind of gun shy, so they opened up every case they could find, I guess, that hadn't been closed in their opinion. We were just the lucky recipients of one of them. So for 22 years, nobody's asked diddly squat about it. And then they said, guess what? You folks are real lucky, and if you want, you're the winner of a free sampling of your dirt out there at no charge to you, and we'll fill the holes back in when we're done. And I said back to him, I said, you can dig the holes to your heart's content as soon as you tell me I'm not responsible for whatever you file because we gave you all this stuff in 1996. And they said, well, we'll have to get back to you, and they never called. So I called Dragon Corporation and said, look, our plan is to sell that building and get it back on the tax roll because the preliminary estimates are that it's worth a lot of money, and we could use that money to build a newer, more efficient fire station that you don't have to let the air out of the tires to get the tank right. And so I said, well, somehow we have to get this closed. And the DEQ's answer was, great, you need to hire an environmentalist to get it closed. So I had Dragon come out and look at it. They gave us an email that I forwarded to everybody today, and I think the gist of the email was, they think to do the sampling and testing's about 10 grand, and then do a closure report's probably around 7,500. If you want a formal estimate, tell me. And I think we need to get that closed and rectified, but Dave is really the one who is our expert on environmental issues because he used to own part of an environmental company. And so I'm suggesting that at this stage, I would like the board to approve I and Dave Axe meeting with the guy from Dragon again to see if we can get a formal price, because I have every expectation that we can get it closed. There was only one site that they tested originally in 1996 that they all met the standards then, but they, you know, it's like arsenic and water, they keep on moving the standard up. Well, now one of the sites wouldn't pass the standard. So Dragon thinks they can get us a closure report. I'd like to meet with Dave and Dragon again and see if we can get a formal price for doing the analysis and a closure report. Because I don't think this is going to get done in a week or two or a month or two. But I think we need to do it to be able to sell the building. The two open issues before we get a formal appraisal on the building are getting the environmental clean bill of health, because I don't think the township wants to be in a position of selling it and then somebody saying, hey, you skunked me because you knew this was there. And the second issue is we have to determine, and Pam's working with me on this, what part of the money, if any, do we have to pay back to community development funds, because they paid for things like the now no longer used elevator in there, and some remodeling that went on in there, doors that went in, some of that stuff.
CDBG funds, with equipment, but with remodeling that we did when we retrofit the bathrooms and, you know, brought all the doorways and entrances ADA, we've put $80-some thousand into the fire department. So we gotta find out.
We have
There's
to.
a depreciation. And
I talked to our auditor who was in here working on the annual audit, and what the folks at the community development said is, here's a list of everything we think we ever added to the building. Double check it with your records, and Pam's doing that. When we get that done, I have to give that list to the auditor, and then he's gonna do what would be considered standard auditing practices for the depreciation schedule on those. And from that, the community development people will decide, maybe you owe us nothing, or maybe you owe us 10 grand or 20 grand. And I think we need to know that before we actually get the building formally appraised. The only appraisal I have on that building right now is a meeting I had about a year and a half ago. I think Steve was with me then. And we talked to a realtor, and he asked me how big the building was, and I swagged the square foot, and I think I was a little low on it. He said, probably worth somewhere around 900,000. I said, well, 900 grand ain't gonna do it. That ain't enough to build it. He said, but as soon as the park opens up, it'll be worth twice that much. So, we need to get that environmental issue cleared up. We need to determine what, if anything, we're gonna owe on the community development money. And then we need to get a formal appraisal so we know what the real value of the building is, not just somebody's swag, but it could be $1.8 million. And so I think we need to start on that, because even if we continue with the drawings you're doing for the state police and that, it's gonna take time for all that to get solved. And we need to get this going, or we won't be able to ever get to where we can actually sell it and start the construction of the building. So, just to let everybody know, I think if we go ahead with the dragon thing, when we get that done, I will get a hold of a couple of appraisers and see if we can get an idea what a formal appraisal on the property would actually cost.
I don't think we need a motion or anything.
No, it's just an
You
FYI.
and Dave
really.
go ahead and do that.
So, that's all I have really that's happened in the last couple of weeks off and gone. Pam, did you have anything for the first report?
No, of course, it's election time, and Patty and Teresa, they've tested all the ballots and getting ready to send out the absentee voter ballots. And we had our election commission meeting today, and we're just doing a very thorough job. Very proud of the girls.
And Dave is not here again due to an unfortunate issue tonight, but we'll be back in the office tomorrow, I think. Okay, at that point, is there any additional audience comment? The regular meeting before we move to the fire budget, or fire meeting? Okay.
I'll
With
make
that,
a
we need a motion
motion.
to
I'll make a
adjourn and
motion to
reconvene
adjourn.
for the fire.
I make a motion.
Okay. Kevin, it's your meeting, we're all here.
I'd like to start off by thanking all the residents that participated in the survey. It was a lot closer than we thought it was going to be, but
When's the win?
win's a win, so thank you. For the month of June, we had 105 calls. Last year we had 122, but since we're not running to the village, we expected it to drop. And it'll be the same for the next few months, or next year, basically.
What time frame would that be that you were actually comparing it? Was it
June.
calendar month or?
June, the whole month.
Oh, up June, okay, so about half
Half of
of
it.
it was without the village, okay.
And that those calls we were going on that Sandy brought up last month, we didn't do as many of those this month. And for 2018, we're at 681 calls for the end of June.